Game over. It's game over for Stadia, for Google Stadia. This is Neon. This is Clownfish TV, and this is not surprising at all. Google couldn't stick the landing when it came to gaming. Stadia is being shut down already. And remember, they made such a huge deal about this? Like, nobody thought this was a good idea. Nobody thought that Google knew what they were doing. Cloud-based gaming, I don't think we're quite there yet. I think Amazon's doing something similar. I don't know. Nobody cares. Does anybody care? Obviously not. So let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, over 276,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. And if you're looking for some video game news, go out to clownshishtv.com. We're ramping up our video game news section. We're going to be hiring some new writers pretty soon, and hoping to bring you objective-based video game news. And actually, speaking of clownshishtv.com, Mike Phelan put this up. Oh boy, it's been 2 months. 2 months ago that there was a rumor that they were going to shut Stadia down, and here it is. It is gone, man. Wired has an article on it. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about how people are pissed off at Google, that they obviously don't care about gamers. Of course they don't. And that Netflix is going to try to double, triple down on gaming, and they've been failing miserably at video games too. A lot of people don't even realize that you can play games on Netflix. I don't care. Do you care? We played the Stranger Things game like 4 or 5 years ago, me and Squid King, when he was little. It wasn't that good. I'm sorry. It was okay. Anyway, Wired, the end of Google Stadia. The company will issue refunds as it shuts down its ambitious cloud gaming service. I mean, if Google can't even make it work, Google Stadia is shutting down just 3 years after it launched. Google's big bet on cloud gaming will stop operating on January 18th, 2023. Its rapid demise isn't a complete shock, despite Google's extravagant efforts to build hype around the service it branded the future of gaming. Actually, most people forgot it even existed. The company's grand plan always lacked one key element: video games. Google failed to release any original titles for Stadia, instead relying on third-party games to draw in players, a costly venture that, according to Bloomberg, Google spent tens of millions of dollars on per port. Damn. That's a write-off, right? That's a write-off. With no flashy releases to show off, Google reportedly approached companies like Peloton and Bungie about white-label deals for streaming tech. Peloton. Well, you're gonna what, bike and game at the same time? They actually have bikes at the gym. They're like that. They have like video games built into them. They're really cheesy video games. They're kind of like edutaining, but you can like go around and collect the coins or something on a bike. I'm like, I have no idea how to use this. Google's plan to halt the service had been rumored since July, when the now suspended Twitter account, killed by Google, irony, speculated Stadia would be finished by the end of the summer. At the time, Stadia's official Twitter account bit back, claiming that Stadia is not shutting down. We're not shutting down. We're not laying people off. We're not over. It's not over. 2 months later, that's exactly what's happening. When news of Stadia's demise broke, it was unclear how many employees or even partners knew in advance. Well, I think a lot of people knew because it got out there. We just learned about Stadia shutting down and have begun conversations about next steps for our players, wrote a Bungie moderator on the Destiny forums. Did anybody use Stadia? Really? Did they? On Reddit, a Stadia community manager was responding to posts about a new user interface rolling out slowly, puzzling those who had learned of the shutdown. Yeah, it's kind of funny because just a couple weeks ago, Assassin's Creed Mirage will not be coming to Stadia, Ubisoft confirms. Of course not, because there is no more Stadia. When Stadia launched, Google was confident it could revolutionize an industry it had little to no experience with. They all do. In March 2019, the company announced it would create its own in-house studio to work on original projects. That effort was led by industry titan Jade Raymond, who was the founder of Ubisoft Toronto and Electronic Arts Motive Studio, as well as a then VP of Google. It didn't last long. By February 2021, Google had reportedly canceled multiple projects, closed 2 of its studios in Montreal and LA, and laid off roughly 150 people. Raymond left the company as part of the transition and began work at a new studio. Stadia never recovered, announcing its closure today. This was a couple days ago. I haven't really been paying attention. Nobody has. That's a problem. Nobody cares about Google Stadia. Harrison said that while Stadia was built on a strong technology foundation, it hadn't gained traction with users. That's okay. Nintendo will do it better in a couple of years. You watch. Nintendo will do something. They'll do it better. It's a costly and embarrassing failure for Google, which will also refund the cost of every piece of hardware bought through a store. Wow. As well as games and add-ons bought through Stadia's store. The majority of those refunds, Harrison said, should be done by mid-January. Company's focus now seems to be on the tech that powered Stadia rather than the games themselves. Google sees clear opportunities to apply this technology across other parts of Google, like on YouTube, Google Play, and in augmented reality projects. You know, Google does this a lot. They experiment a lot with things, and then they wind up shutting a lot of it down. Remember Google Plus? Yeah, nobody really remembers Google Plus, but they were going to compete with Facebook. They keep doing this. And look, when you've got like infinite money, you can afford to have a couple of misfires, right? But yeah, Stadia was supposed to be the future of gaming. Now it's past. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if another company that was actually good at making video games did something very similar to what Stadia was, you know, cloud-based gaming, strictly cloud-based gaming, but they did it infinitely better. So people are reacting. I thought this article was pretty interesting from The Gamer because they're actually rolling Stadia and Overwatch 2 into the same article. And I know Squid King has been complaining about Overwatch 2. Now, he's a huge fan of the original Overwatch, and he's very, very salty that when Overwatch 2 comes out, it basically deletes Overwatch. Like, you can't play it anymore. I'm like, oh, don't worry. It's Blizzard. They'll have Overwatch Classic in a couple of months after the numbers drop. But yeah, so they put this article out there saying this is what happens when game companies don't care about you. The problem is Google never really was a game company, and Blizzard, I don't know what Blizzard's doing these days. But it was kind of funny. By disabling the first Overwatch, Blizzard is effing over people who paid money for the game. Doesn't matter if they get free content for owning the first game. Doesn't mean anything if you still can't play original content you specifically paid for. That's a problem with cloud-based gaming in general, is, if it's not part of the service or whatever, if you're actually buying, like, quote unquote, buying the games through the service, or, leasing them, or, whatever, they can delete them at any point in time. But it's pretty bad when you actually buy a physical copy of a game and you can't really play it anymore because, money, you got to play the sequel. Can you imagine if other game franchises did that on a regular basis? I don't think it's going to go well for them. But yeah, Netflix is doubling down now on video games. So Stadia is shutting down, and Netflix is also failing at video games, but they're going to build their own game studio, guys. They're pressing full steam ahead with its mobile gaming ambitions, despite low subscriber engagement in the small library of titles released thus far. So based in Finland, the new studio will be fronted by former EA and Zynga executive Marco Lastica, and it'll join Next Games' Night School Studio and the streamer's roster of already owned developers. This isn't going to end well. Playing the long game. So why is Netflix doubling down on gaming? Yeah, why are they? The answer, we think, remains the same as the reason Netflix kicked off its whole gaming endeavor in the first place. Simply another way to entertain and, crucially, retain those subscribers who are already invested in the brand's ecosystem. So here's the thing. We did a video on this before. Less than 1% of Netflix subscribers have ever played one of their games, but they said 23.3 million have downloaded one of their titles. What? I don't think that. I didn't even realize that they were doing it. I thought they were talking about it, but apparently, they're moving ahead on it. Now, we played the first Stranger Things game on iPhone, like, ages ago. But yeah, I don't know how it's gonna go. I don't think they're gonna be the ones to pick up from where Google. I mean, if Google can't do it, Netflix can't do it. You need an actual video game developer that creates quality titles first. The games have to be worth playing first, and then the delivery system. Then you work on that. But the games aren't worth playing. It doesn't matter how you deliver the content. The people, they're not going to play it. They're not going to pay for it. So pretty interesting stuff, guys. The 3 years, I didn't even think they were around that long. Going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.